Alex Carter, a successful CEO, watched the city through the windows of his spacious office at the top of the building. At 45 years old, he had reached a level of success that many only dreamed of. He was the leader of Innovatech, one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the country. His journey from a small town in Georgia to the top of the corporate world in Silicon Valley was to be admired. But as he adjusted his suit, a feeling of uneasiness bothered him. Despite the recent successful quarter and the impact of his technology solutions on various industries, Alex felt that something was not right in his company's work environment. That feeling had been growing inside him for weeks, and today, as he waited for his managers in the meeting room, he realized he couldn't ignore it anymore. His assistant's voice interrupted his thoughts. "Mr. Carter, your 10 o'clock meeting is here." Alex, coming back to reality, replied, "Let them in, Sarah." The door opened and Eleanor Park, head of human resources, and David Collins, the director of operations, entered. The concern on their faces reflected Alex's own feelings. "Thank you for coming," Alex said as he pointed to the conference table. "I think we know why we're here." David nodded, normally jovial, but today he looked serious. The results of the employee satisfaction survey were not favorable, they confirmed, as Elena took out her tablet and began to review graphs. "It's not good news," he began. Overall satisfaction was down 15% compared to last year, especially in areas such as work-life balance, feeling valued, and trust in management. Alex leaned back in his chair with a frown. "And in the open comments, any recurring complaints?" Eleanor, hesitating for a moment, looked at David before continuing. "Yes, many comments talk about a toxic work culture, employees who feel overloaded, unappreciated, and some mention favoritism in promotions and project assignments." David chimed in, trying to soften the blow. "But Alex, we need to take this with some caution. It has been a year of many changes with the growth of the company. It is normal that there are certain tensions." Alex raised a hand, slowing David down. "I get it, David, but these numbers and comments are troubling. We cannot simply attribute this to growth difficulties." Elena proposed possible solutions. "We could implement some team integration initiatives, review our benefits package." Alex shook his head, interrupting her. "This goes further. Something in our company culture is wrong, and I need to understand what it is." Standing, he began to walk around the room, his thoughts swirling around a phrase his former mentor had told him. "You can't truly know a company until you've walked in the shoes of its lowest-paid employee." David, confused, asked, "What are you proposing?" Alex turned to them with determination in his eyes. "I think it's time to get my hands dirty. Literally." Elena, suddenly realizing his intentions, opened her eyes in disbelief. "Are you serious?" Alex nodded. "Yes, I'm going to work incognito as a cleaning staff." The room fell silent, both managers processing the magnitude of Alex's idea. After a moment, David burst into incredulous laughter. "Come on, Alex, you've taken us by surprise. I thought you were serious." However, Alex did not smile. "I'm not kidding, David. I need to see this company from below without filters or intermediaries to know what it's like to work here when the boss isn't looking." Eleanor leaned forward, her tone serious. "Alex, with all due respect, this is crazy. You're the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. You can't just take a mop for a week." "Why not?" challenged Alex. "We hired a cleaning service through an agency. It wouldn't be difficult to infiltrate as a new employee into the cleaning team." David, realizing that he was serious, adopted a more strategic tone. "Okay, so how would we do it? It's not easy to go unnoticed by someone in your position in the company." Alex smiled, feeling an energy he hadn't experienced in weeks. "That's where you two come in. I need a backstory and a costume that works." Over the next hour, they came up with a plan. Alex would become Charlie, a middle-aged man looking for a new opportunity with a basic job. They decided that the costume would consist of thick glasses, a light beard that he would start growing out immediately, and a somewhat different hairstyle than he usually wore. "And your family?" asked Elena, worried. "Won't they suspect something if you disappear all week?" Alex softened his expression. "I will tell Clara the truth. She will understand. We can make up that I'm on a leadership retreat if someone asks." With the plan in place, the following days were a maelstrom of preparations. He worked with a professional makeup artist to perfect his new look, practiced walking differently, and rehearsed a slight change in his accent, anything that would help him avoid being recognized. The night before his first day at work, Alex stood in front of the bathroom mirror, watching the stranger staring back at him. Gone was the sleek, self-confident CEO. Instead, there was Charlie, the janitor, in a worn-out uniform and old boots. Clara appeared at the door, a mixture of worry and amusement on her face. "I still think you're crazy for doing this," he told him, wrapping her arms around him. Alex looked at her through the reflection, his eyes full of determination. "Maybe, but I need to, Clara. It's for the company, for our employees, and, deep down, for myself." Clara kissed him on the cheek. "Just promise me that you will be careful and don't forget the lunch I prepared for you." Alex laughed, turning to hug her completely. "Yes, my dear, I'll be the best-fed janitor in Silicon Valley." That night, as he lay in bed, he couldn't sleep. His mind was filled with questions about what he would find, how he would be treated, and whether this risky idea would really work. Finally, when he saw the first rays of sunlight filtering through the curtains, he accepted the lack of sleep and got up in silence, putting on his janitor's uniform without waking Clara. He left a note in the kitchen, reminding her how much he loved her and thanking her for her support. The drive to Innovatech's headquarters felt surreal. I had made that journey thousands of times, but never in these circumstances. He parked in the far corner of the parking lot, moving away from his usual reserved spot. As he got out of the car and put on the old backpack that completed his costume, he felt a mixture of nerves and excitement. Arriving at the employee entrance instead of the executive entrance he usually used, Alex took a deep breath, ready to start his mission. He approached the security desk with his heart pounding in his chest. This was the first test of his disguise. "Good morning," said the guard without looking up from his computer much. "ID card, please." Alex struggled with the temporary badge that Eleanor had arranged for him. Yes, here you go. It's my first day, actually." The guard barely glanced at the card before beckoning her in. "Welcome aboard. The cleaning office is on the basement level. Take the elevator to the left." When the elevator doors closed, Alex let out the air he didn't know he was holding. First step completed. Upon arriving at the basement, he noticed that he was in a completely different world from the elegant offices upstairs. Fluorescent lights illuminated a maze of storage rooms and maintenance areas. He followed the signs to the cleaning office, where he was greeted by Doris, a middle-aged woman with a rough character. "You must be the new one," he said, looking him up and down with some distrust. "Charlie, right?" Alex nodded, trying to remember the story they had created. "That's right. Thank you for giving me the opportunity." Doris snorted. "Don't thank me yet. Let's see if you survive the week." With a suspicious look, she guided him through a crash course in cleaning protocols and safety regulations. Alex tried to pay attention to every detail: the worn-out equipment, the smell of chemicals, Doris's slight whine as she bent down to lift a heavy bucket. "Any questions?" asked Doris at the end of the orientation. Alex hesitated, then decided to take a risk. "Yes, actually, what is it like to work here at Innovatech?" Doris's face softened slightly. "It's a job," he replied with a shrug. "It pays better than other places, but don't expect someone to notice that we exist up there," pointed to the roof. "To them, we are invisible. Just do your job and try not to disturb anyone." Alex felt a twinge of guilt. Had you created a company where people felt invisible? Before he could think about it any further, Doris handed him a mop and a bucket. "Well, Charlie, let's see what you're made of. Start with the lobby and then go up the floors. I'll see you later." With that, Alex was left alone, pushing the cleaning cart into the shiny lobby of the company that he himself had built from its foundations. As he watched the morning employees walk in, barely paying attention to him, a reality struck him. For the first time in decades, Alex Carter was truly invisible in his own company, and he had never felt so exposed. As he dipped the mop into the bucket for the first time, Alex took a deep breath. He was about to immerse himself in the day-to-day life of Innovatech, where the true face of his company would be revealed. Soon a voice interrupted his thoughts. "Excuse me, can you clean up a spill by the elevator?" asked a professional-looking young woman, barely staring at him as she pointed impatiently. Alex nodded, grateful for the simplicity of the task. "Sure, right now," he replied quietly, maintaining his Charlie persona. As he made his way to the elevator, he noticed how the woman didn't even bother to look directly at him, as if he were part of the necessary but invisible office furniture. For the rest of the morning, Alex experienced this sensation repeatedly. Employees passed by him immersed in his conversations, or with their eyes fixed on their phones. A few gave him a polite nod or a brief "thank you" when holding a door, but most didn't even notice it. By lunchtime, Alex arrived at the cafeteria, busy with employees discussing projects or relaxing between tasks. As he cleaned tables and emptied trash cans, he listened to snippets of conversations that began to give him a different perspective on his own company. "Did you hear about the new project in research and development?" Someone whispered excitedly. "I've heard they're only picking people from elite colleges for the team." "It's no surprise," replied another with a hint of bitterness. "Here it all depends on who you are and where you come from." Alex frowned at this, an unpleasant surprise. I had always believed in a meritocratic culture for Innovatech. Would he have ignored a climate of elitism without realizing it? As he continued, Alex spotted a group of familiar faces at a table across the cafeteria, his management team. He kept his head down, focused on his cleanliness, but tuned his ear to listen to the conversation. "If I have to put up with one more complaint from the customer service team, I'm going to explode," Martha Rivera, the head of operations, said with exasperation. "They look like children, always complaining about something." Alex felt a twinge of disappointment. He had always considered Martha to be one of his most empathetic leaders. "Tell me," added Carlos Romero from the marketing area. "I rejected another idea from one of the young analysts yesterday. They think they can come here with their recent titles and try to change everything with the stroke of a pen." The table erupted in laughter, and Alex felt a mixture of embarrassment and anger. Was that really your leadership team's attitude toward others? As the afternoon wore on, Alex found himself on one of the engineering floors, carefully cleaning workstations and conference rooms. He noted the noticeable difference between the areas. In one section, a group of young employees worked collaboratively, surrounded by the latest technological gadgets and with easy access to members of the management team. But just a few meters away, the atmosphere changed. There, the team seemed more subdued, working with older equipment and separated from the energetic group by an invisible but palpable barrier. By the end of the day, Alex finished his workday on the executive floor, cleaning out the sleek, well-decorated offices he normally occupied. He was careful, knowing that a small mistake could give away his identity. While cleaning a bookshelf in a conference room, he overheard a conversation in a nearby office with the door ajar. He recognized Martha's voice, which spoke in a stern tone. "I don't care that he worked here for 10 years, he said firmly. "Sarah doesn't have the right image for a role in front of clients. We need someone more polished, more charismatic." "But their performance evaluations are excellent," another voice responded. "He knows the product inside out." Martha snorted. "Performance isn't everything, David. We need someone who fits the Innovatech brand. How about Chris, the new one? He has the presence, and he's great at relating." "Chris has only been around for 6 months, David protested. "You barely know the basics of our platform." "He'll learn," Martha said, dismissing the concern. "The important thing is that it makes a good impression. That's what counts in this business." Alex felt his stomach churn. He had always relied on Martha's judgment for personnel issues, believing that he had the best interests of the company in mind. But this conversation revealed a preference for superficiality, for appearance over experience and hard work. Lost in thought, he didn't notice when Martha left her office until it was too late. He turned and stood face to face with her, feeling a moment of panic. Would you recognize it? But Martha barely looked at him, her face reflecting a cold indifference. "Excuse me," he said in an authoritative tone, clearly expecting him to move out of his way immediately. Alex tilted his head, feigning awkwardness, and accidentally knocked over his cleaning cart, causing his materials to fall to the floor. Martha's expression went from annoyance to outright contempt. "For God's sake," he snapped. Can you be more careful? Some of us have important work to do here. Alex felt a spark of anger, but he swallowed the answer. I'm so sorry, it won't happen again, he replied, as he quickly gathered his things. Martha stood there doing nothing to help. It is better that it be so. We can't afford clumsy janitors to interrupt our work. If you can't handle the job, there will surely be someone who can. With that, he turned and left, leaving him on the floor surrounded by his cleaning supplies. Alex watched her walk away, shocked. That was the same Martha who, in meetings, used to talk about respect and dignity in the workplace. How had he come to adopt such a contemptuous attitude? With the rest of the night ahead of him, Alex finished his workday physically exhausted and emotionally affected by what he had witnessed. He walked to his car, far from his usual reserved spot, feeling a heavy burden on his shoulders. Back home, he reflected on the day, on the acts of indifference and disdain that seemed to have become common at Innovatech. The disconnect between his ideals and the reality he had seen was overwhelming. The next day, Alex returned to Innovatech with the weight of his discoveries from the previous day still fresh in his mind. He set out to continue his undercover mission, determined to see the company from below and discover more about the hidden problems that seemed to have taken root in the corporate culture. His first assignment was the IT department, a maze of cubicles lit by the blue glow of multiple monitors. As she cleaned around desks, she noticed an employee who stood out from the rest. It was Samuel Vega, a kind man of about 35 years old, who went from desk to desk, offering help to his colleagues, always with a sincere smile. Curious, Alex deliberately knocked over a stack of papers near Samuel's desk. "Oh, let me help you with that," Samuel said immediately, leaning over to pick up the leaves. "Thank you," Alex muttered, keeping his role as Charlie. "Most people don't even notice me." Samuel smiled at her and held out his hand. "I'm Samuel, and everyone deserves to be seen, no matter what work they do." Over the next hour, Alex watched as Samuel patiently tended to his colleagues, explaining complex technical issues without losing his cool, and even assisting a new intern who was having trouble with her computer setup. But what really impressed Alex was how Samuel interacted with the support staff. He greeted the security guards, knew the name of every employee in the cafeteria, and helped anyone in need. "You're so kind to everyone, Samuel," commented a colleague of his. "How do you do it?" Samuel shrugged his shoulders and smiled humbly. "We're all in this together, aren't we? A little kindness can go a long way." As Alex moved to other areas to continue cleaning, he felt a spark of hope. People like Samuel were the true heart of Innovatech, which he had always wanted the company to stand for. But at the same time, he could not ignore the contrast with the behavior of some other leaders and employees. That night, Alex had his first night shift. When the office calmed down and fell silent, the space took on a different, quieter, almost desolate atmosphere. While performing his duties in the finance department, he noticed a lone figure leaning over a computer. It was Laura Moreno, one of the senior accountants I had seen before. Pretending to empty nearby trash cans, Alex overheard Laura talking quietly to herself as she went through a spreadsheet. "These numbers don't add up. If we don't catch this bug now, it could cause us big problems down the road." Seeing her dedication and effort, Alex watched her make a call. "Mrs. Johnson, I'm sorry to call you so late. Yes, I'm Laura from Innovatech. I know Tommy has a game tomorrow, but I need those files. Could you send them to me? Thank you very much. I promise I owe you one." As she hung up, Laura let out a sigh. Alex could see the conflict on his face. His dedication to his work was in constant clash with the guilt of losing moments with his family. Seeing his opportunity, Alex decided to take a chance. "Excuse me, miss. I noticed that you worked late." "Is everything okay?" Laura looked at him in surprise, hesitating for a moment before answering. "It's part of the job," he said with a tired smile. "There's always more to do, and someone has to do it." "Do they recognize your effort?" Alex asked softly. Laura let out a bitter laugh. "Recognition? I've been passed over for promotions 3 times already. According to them, I'm not a team player because I can't attend all the meetings and activities outside of work. But here I am, night after night." As Laura left, Alex felt a mixture of admiration for her dedication and anger against a system that seemed blind to the dedication of people like her. He made a mental note to review Laura's case once her undercover mission was over. The next day, Alex continued his day in the product development area, where the atmosphere was noticeably more relaxed. He observed a meeting of a group of designers who were discussing ideas for a new product feature. He noticed a young employee, Anna Lee, who tried several times to intervene, but her comments were overshadowed by other, louder colleagues. Finally, in a moment of frustration, he dared to speak out. "What if we approach this from another perspective?" he said aloud. "We could prioritize accessibility for users with disabilities instead of focusing only on speed." There was a moment of silence, and finally the team leader spoke. "That's a good idea, Anna. Why didn't you say something before?" Anna lowered her gaze and murmured, "I tried, but—" "Well, for the next time, speak louder," the leader interrupted her. "We can't read minds here." Alex watched as Anna sank into her chair, resigned, the recognition of her idea overshadowed by the tone of criticism. He made another mental note. The team didn't seem to value or encourage diverse voices, but instead rewarded volume over innovation. Later, Alex returned to the IT department, where Samuel was arguing with his supervisor about a new system. "I tell you that this system has serious security problems," Samuel said urgently. "If we implement it without reviewing it, we will be putting customer data at risk." The supervisor, a man Alex recognized as one of the rising leaders of middle management, waved his hand nonchalantly. "Samuel, we already discussed this. The council wants this system up and running by the end of the quarter. We don't have time for your paranoia about security." "But enough," interrupted the supervisor. "You're an excellent coach, Samuel, but you have to learn to see the big picture. Sometimes we have to take calculated risks to stay competitive. Now, are you going to work with the team, or should I find someone else?" Alex saw the pain on Samuel's face. His professional integrity was under pressure and he found it difficult to resist. Alex made a mental note of reviewing Innovatec's policies on risk management and data security. By the end of his day, Alex was emotionally drained, the weight of everything he had witnessed pressing down on his thoughts. Between the culture of favoritism, the contempt for those who didn't fit a certain profile, and the lack of support for dedicated employees like Laura and Samuel, Alex clearly saw that Innovatec was facing deep problems that required radical transformation. As he drove to his car, Alex pulled out a notebook and began to jot down his observations, looking for patterns in what he had observed. He knew that the problems were not limited to a few people or isolated incidents. They were symptoms of a larger problem that affected the essence of the company. With a mixture of frustration and determination, Alex told himself that he had to get to the bottom of it all and find solutions. Innovatec's core values were at stake, and the cost of ignoring these issues was too high to be accepted. The next day, Alex returned early to Innovatec, carrying the weight of his previous discoveries and determined to dig deeper. He headed to the customer service area, where the team worked diligently from dawn attending to global customer requests and issues. In the middle of the activity, he distinguished Laura Moreno, the accountant he had seen working late the night before. His dedication was evident as he patiently guided a client through a complex problem. While cleaning up near the support team, Alex noticed a conversation between Laura and a younger colleague. "Getting up early again, Laura," the young man commented with concern. "Didn't you work late last night?" Laura gave him a tired smile. "That's right, but someone has to make sure everything is in order. Also, I have to show commitment if I want to have any chance for that promotion." The young man frowned. "But you're the most dedicated person here. I'm sure you already see it." Laura let out a small, bitter laugh. "I would like to believe that, but I have been giving it my all for years, and I have never been considered for a promotion. Maybe we're just not visible to them up there." Alex felt a twinge of guilt. I had always intended Innovatec to be a place where everyone felt seen and valued, but Laura was revealing a different reality. Seeing his dedication and the personal sacrifice he made day in and day out, Alex decided that when he returned to his position as CEO, he would take a close look at his situation and look for a way to recognize his work. Alex later continued his work in the product development department, where the environment was noticeably less formal than in other areas. While cleaning up near a group of designers gathered in a brainstorming session, she noticed that Anna Lee tried to contribute, but was constantly interrupted or ignored by her more vocal peers. Finally, in a moment of frustration, he raised his voice. What if instead of focusing solely on speed, we prioritized accessibility for users with disabilities? For a moment, the team was silent, and the leader of the group, who had ignored her until then, commented, "Good idea, Anna. Why didn't you mention it before?" "I tried, but—" "Logically," Anna murmured. "Well, you have to speak louder," the leader interrupted her, as if the problem was only one of communication. Alex watched as Anna returned to her place, a little disenchanted. Even though he had managed to get his idea considered, the recognition seemed superficial, and the environment continued to reward assertiveness rather than the quality of ideas. As he continued his work, Alex made another mental note to investigate how the inclusion of ideas in teams was handled, and if there were barriers that prevented diverse voices from being heard. Moving towards the end of the day, Alex returned to the finance area, where the atmosphere was unusually quiet. Passing through a group of cubicles, he heard a low, muffled sound. It was Jorge Diaz, a veteran employee with more than 10 years in the company, leaning over his desk and trying to hide his tears. Hesitating for a moment, Alex decided to approach carefully. "Excuse me, are you okay?" asked Alex, adopting a soft tone. Jorge looked up, and when he saw Alex, he tried to compose himself quickly. "I'm fine. It's just allergies." However, the sadness on his face was evident. Alex offered her a friendly smile. "If you need to talk, I can listen." Jorge hesitated but finally let out a deep sigh. "I have been at Innovatec for more than 10 years. I've worked hard. I've sacrificed weekends, my children's birthdays, all for this company. And now, I'm about to lose my house. My wife is sick, and the medical bills are piling up. I asked for a raise, even overtime, but was told there's nothing they can do. Years of loyalty, and this is what I get." Jorge's words resonated with Alex, leaving him with a mixture of guilt and anger. I couldn't believe that someone like Jorge, who had given so much to the company, would find himself in such a desperate situation without support. He promised himself that he would look for a solution to help him once he completed his covert mission. The day was over, and Alex returned home, exhausted both physically and emotionally. The discoveries of the last few days had shown him the dark side of Innovatec, a work culture that, at some point, had deviated from the values with which he had founded the company. He knew that this mission had changed him, and that he would have to make difficult decisions to restore the true spirit of Innovatec. The next day, Alex returned to Innovatec, determined to uncover more of the company's hidden layers. His mission took him this time to the marketing area, where he found himself in the conference room after a leadership meeting. While cleaning, he overheard the conversation between two managers walking towards the exit. "So who will we put on the team for the next project?" asked one. The other manager, thoughtful, replied, "I suppose the usual ones, those who have the image of Innovatec. And what about Sarah from the engineering team? I've been told he has good ideas for this." "Sarah? Come on, she doesn't fit the leadership profile. She's too reserved. We need someone who has a presence, you know." Alex felt his spirits drop as he listened to a talented employee being dismissed, just for not fitting into an arbitrary idea of image. It had been his intention that Innovatec would be a place where merit and innovation counted more than appearance or contacts, but this conversation showed him that superficiality was being privileged over true talent. As he finished cleaning and left the room, his resolve grew stronger. He had to find a way to change this mindset, which was so far from the principles with which he had founded the company. Later, Alex was back in the IT department, where he could observe Samuel Vega working on a new system. He noticed that Samuel approached his supervisor to express a concern. "I'm sure this system has security issues," Samuel said, clearly concerned. "If we implement it without reviewing, our customers' data could be at risk." His supervisor, a manager known for being ambitious and having a quick promotion in the company, replied nonchalantly, "Samuel, the board wants this system ready by the end of the quarter. We don't have time for your safety concerns." But enough is enough. the supervisor cut him off. "Sometimes you have to take calculated risks. Now, are you going to cooperate with the team, or do we need someone else to do it?" Samuel, visibly frustrated, walked away to his desk. Alex could see the internal struggle in Samuel, torn between his professional integrity and the pressure to conform. This interaction deeply troubled Alex. I knew that ignoring safety issues just to meet deadlines was a recipe for future serious problems. As he made his way to the exit at the end of the day, Alex saw Samuel greeting the janitorial employees with respect and consideration, something he noticed few in the company did. At that moment, he decided that Innovatech needed people like Samuel, who acted with integrity and responsibility. Over the next few days, Alex continued his observations in different departments and areas of the company. In every corner of Innovatech, he saw exceptional employees like Anna, Laura, and Samuel, who embodied the values of dedication and empathy that he had always wanted for the company. However, he also encountered attitudes of favoritism, indifference, and a lack of support for those who did not fit the superficial mold of success that some leaders had established. Every day, Alex felt more determined not to ignore the problems he encountered. I knew that these problems would not be solved with small adjustments. A real transformation and a profound change of culture were needed. The time he spent as Charlie showed him how far Innovatech had strayed from the values with which he had founded it. The next day, Alex arrived early, with a mixture of nerves and determination, ready to explore more aspects of the company and confirm the patterns he had observed so far. Today, its focus was on technical support, where employees used to work long hours dealing with urgent customer problems. She found herself cleaning near the care team when she heard Jorge Diaz talking to a colleague. Jorge's voice, normally firm, sounded tired and resigned. "It's not easy to keep up the pace here," Jorge confessed quietly. "I feel like it's never enough. We work late, give up our lives outside the office, but in the end it doesn't even show. We are invisible to them." His companion nodded, clearly understanding his words. "It's frustrating, isn't it? It's as if our work is just a number in their reports. No matter how much we give, it's never enough for the people at the top." Alex felt a knot in his stomach when he heard these words. The disconnect between rank-and-file employees and senior management was evident, and this feeling of being invisible that Jorge described went against everything he had wanted to build with Innovatech. After noon, Alex went to the conference room, where he saw Martha Rivera, one of the operations executives, talking with some of the managers. He noticed that Martha was talking about the new sales targets, with a tone of urgency that made it clear that she would not accept excuses. "We need these goals to be met, whatever the cost," Martha said energetically. "I don't care how they do it, but they have to." One of the managers, somewhat uncomfortable, tried to explain. "Martha, I understand the pressure, but some of these goals are unattainable with the current team. They are at the limit of their capacity." Martha dismissed the comment with a wave of her hand. "That's not my problem. If the team doesn't measure up, we'll find someone who does. There is no room for weakness here." Alex felt a mixture of frustration and sadness. Martha, a leader whom he had always trusted to promote Innovatech's values, now displayed a harsh and contemptuous attitude that was opposed to the culture he wanted to establish. For the first time, he understood that his absence from day-to-day operations had allowed behaviors to emerge that he would never have tolerated. Shortly after this interaction, Alex found himself in the lobby, doing his cleaning routine when Martha walked past him. When she saw him, she recognized him as Charlie, and with a look of disdain pointed out that he had left marks on the glass. "Do it right the first time, will you?" "I don't have time for these mistakes." His authoritative tone echoed through the empty space. "I'm sorry, I'll do better," Alex replied, maintaining his role as janitor. When Martha walked away, Alex was tempted to confront her, to let her know who she really was and how her attitude went against the principles of the company. But he restrained himself, remembering that his purpose was to observe and understand what was really going on in his absence. While heading to the rest area for a break, Alex spotted Samuel talking to some teammates. Samuel patiently explained a technical process to them, offering his help and showing a genuine willingness to collaborate with everyone. This small gesture by Samuel, contrasted with Martha's coldness, reminded Alex that there was still hope and valuable people within Innovatech. At that moment, Alex realized that his mission was not only about identifying problems, but also about recognizing the people who were still keeping alive the spirit he had wanted for the company. He had learned valuable lessons from each interaction and knew that measures would need to be taken to bring Innovatech back to its essence. As the week progressed, Alex took note of every observation, every story of effort and sacrifice he encountered in each department. It was clear that there were leaders who only prioritized short-term goals with no thought to employee well-being. But I also saw examples of dedication such as Laura, Anna and Samuel, who continued to work with integrity and empathy. On the last day of his mission, Alex felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. He knew that upon returning as CEO, he had to face these problems head-on and make difficult decisions to recover the culture he had always wanted for Innovatech. As his shift ended, he mentally prepared himself for what was to come, aware that this covert trip would change the course of the company forever. As the days went by, Alex had seen enough to understand that Innovatech was in a critical situation. It was clear that the company needed a profound transformation, and to achieve it, it would have to take drastic measures. On his last day as Charlie, Alex set out to get as much information as possible so that he would be fully prepared when he finally revealed his true identity and began implementing changes. That day, he was in the development department when he saw Anna Lee, the young developer whose talent had been ignored multiple times. He watched her as she tried once again to express an idea in a team meeting. His voice was lost among the comments of others until he finally gave up, preferring to remain silent. Alex felt a knot in his stomach. I knew that if Innovatech was going to thrive, I needed voices like Anna's, people with fresh ideas and different perspectives. When the meeting ended, Alex, still in his role as Charlie, approached Anna as she cleaned near her desk. "It seems that you have a lot of good ideas. Do you like the work you do here?" Anna shrugged. "Yes, I love what I do, but sometimes I feel like it doesn't matter how much I try to contribute. It always seems like decisions are already made before I can say anything." Alex nodded, making a mental note that the environment at Innovatech should not only promote new ideas, but also respect and encourage the participation of each team member, regardless of their experience or personality. As the afternoon progressed, Alex headed to the administration area. Upon entering an office to clean, he overheard Laura talking on the phone, discussing her workload and the lack of recognition for her efforts. After hanging up, Laura sighed and began to type on her computer with an obvious tiredness on her face. Not realizing that Alex was watching her, Laura turned around and said in a low voice, as if talking to herself, "Sometimes I feel that all this effort is invisible, that no matter what I do, here they only value those who make noise." These words resonated with Alex. It was a reminder that the most dedicated employees were often the least recognized, and that the change he wanted for Innovatech also needed to include a new way of valuing and rewarding quiet but essential work. When night came and Alex left his janitorial uniform for the last time, he felt a mixture of relief and determination. He knew that the time had come to confront the issues he had observed and to lead a transformation that would not only benefit the company, but also restore Innovatech's true purpose, to be a place where all employees could thrive and feel that their contributions were valued. At the end of his last night as Charlie, Alex headed home, mentally reviewing each of the week's events. The cold attitudes of some leaders, the atmosphere of favoritism, and the invisibility of valuable employees such as Anna, Laura, and Jorge had marked a clear panorama. Innovatech had lost its way. That night, he could barely sleep, planning how he would address these issues when he revealed his identity and began the company's transformation. The next morning, Alex called a meeting for all Innovatech staff in the main auditorium. The employees looked at each other, surprised by the unexpected call. Rumors ran through the corridors, some saying that it would be great news from the company, while others believed that it was a corporate motivation session. When the last group of employees took their seats, the lights dimmed and Alex walked to the stage. He wore his usual costume, with an expression of seriousness and purpose. He looked out at the crowd, identifying some of the faces he'd met while working as Charlie. With a deep sigh, he began to speak. "Good morning, everyone," he said in a firm voice as the audience fell into expectant silence. I have asked that we meet today because I need to talk to you about the future of Innovatech. And to do so, I want to share with you some stories from this same company, from amazing people who work with us. A murmur ran through the audience, while Alex focused his gaze on a specific point in the room. I want you to meet Samuel Vega from IT, he continued. Samuel, could you please stand up? Samuel, visibly embarrassed but smiling, slowly got up. Samuel is the type of person that every company would wish to have. Not only is he an expert in his field, but he's always willing to help his peers and show kindness to every person he works with. A few people applauded, acknowledging Alex's words, while others looked at Samuel with admiration. Alex paused, then continued. I also want to recognize Laura Moreno in the finance department. Laura, could you stand up? Laura stood up, clearly surprised, as Alex continued. Laura works tirelessly to ensure that every number in our finances is in order. Their dedication and sacrifice often go unnoticed, but without their effort and attention to detail, our company would not be where it is today. As Laura sat down, Alex looked at the crowd with a serious expression. These stories are just two examples of the people who sustain Innovatech. However, what I discovered this week also showed me that, at some point, as a company, we have lost our way. The tension in the atmosphere was growing. Employees exchanged confused and worried looks. Alex took a deep breath, bracing himself for the reveal. For the last week, I was among you as a member of the cleaning staff, working under the name Charlie. He took a photo of himself in his janitor costume and showed it to the auditorium, where murmurs of surprise and recognition began to emerge. I did it because I felt something was wrong with our culture, and I needed to see it with my own eyes, she explained. What I found was inspiring, but also deeply disturbing. I saw valuable employees overlooked for not fitting into a superficial image. I heard how some of our leaders treated their teams with coldness and contempt, and I realized that we had unknowingly allowed a culture of favoritism and lack of empathy to develop. Alex turned his gaze to the section where the managers were sitting and continued. These problems are not the fault of a few. They are the reflection of a culture that has deviated from our values, but I assure you that this changes today. He paused, watching the reactions of the employees, many of whom nodded silently. With renewed determination, Alex began to outline his plan to transform Innovatech. Alex took a breath, looking at his employees with a mixture of seriousness and empathy. I knew that what I was going to propose would mark the future of Innovatech in a decisive way. To restore the values with which this company was founded, he began, we are going to implement important changes. First, we set up a completely anonymous communication system so that any employee can voice concerns without fear of retaliation. No one at Innovatech should fear for their position when pointing out a problem or an injustice. A murmur of approval ran through the auditorium. Alex noticed some looks of relief and nodded, grateful that this first change was well received. Second, he continued, we will comprehensively review our evaluation and advocacy process. Opportunities for growth should be based on dedication, skills, and merit, not connections or looks. This company was founded to value the authentic work and commitment of every individual, no matter their position. This time, the applause began to grow in intensity. Many of the employees seemed visibly moved, and Alex felt his words begin to resonate with them. In addition, Alex continued, we will enhance our benefits package and financial support. I cannot allow people like Jorge, who have given years of their lives to this company, to face personal crises without support. No one should have to choose between their personal well-being and their loyalty to Innovatech. Alex looked for Jorge in the crowd and gave him a slight nod. Jorge looked back at her with a mixture of gratitude and hope. We will also implement mandatory training for all of our leaders, he said, looking at the managers in attendance. This training will focus on empathy, inclusion, and ethical leadership. We need leaders who guide their teams with integrity and respect and who foster an environment of collaboration rather than destructive competition. As he spoke, Alex turned his gaze to Martha Rivera, who now seemed to understand the impact of his words. It was not a simple training. It was a transformation in the form of leadership that he wanted for Innovatech. Martha looked down, processing what this meant for her own role in the company. Finally, Alex said, his voice heavy with emotion, I want you to know that this change is not just about policy. It's about you, about every person who has worked tirelessly to make Innovatech what it is. I am committed to listening to their ideas, supporting their dreams, and building an environment where everyone feels valued." The audience was silent for a moment before the applause began, this time louder and longer. Alex felt a surge of relief and determination. He knew that the road to restoring the essence of Innovatech would be arduous, but he also knew that he had the support of his employees. When the meeting was over, Alex stood on stage for a moment, watching the employees leave. He saw Laura, Samuel, and Anna approach him to thank him for the words and for the direction he was taking. As he listened to their comments, he reaffirmed his commitment to them and to the future he wanted to build. That day marked the beginning of a new stage for Innovatech, one in which each person would have an important role in building a culture based on respect, merit, and authenticity. As the meeting concluded, Alex approached the edge of the stage, where several employees spontaneously lined up to talk to him. Samuel was one of the first to thank him, and his voice had a tone of hope that Alex hadn't heard before. "I didn't think I'd ever see changes like that here, Mr. Carter. It makes me feel like it's worth moving forward." Alex patted him on the shoulder. "This place needs people like you, Samuel. You have shown more leadership than many in higher positions. Thank you for your commitment." Samuel smiled, and Alex felt a deep satisfaction in knowing that he was one of the people who would benefit the most from these changes. Then Laura came over. His expression was one of relief, and his eyes showed a gratitude that went beyond words. "Thank you, Alex," he said quietly. "I've been here so long, but I've never felt really valued like I do now." Alex smiled back at him. "I know that you have sacrificed a lot for Innovatech, Laura, and that will not go unnoticed. I will do whatever it takes to make sure that the work of people like you is recognized and rewarded." As each employee said goodbye to him, Alex felt a renewed energy. Finally, when everyone had left the auditorium, Alex took his seat and stood reflecting, mentally reviewing each conversation and each promise. I knew the real challenge was just beginning. In the days that followed, Innovatech became a hive of activity. Alex began implementing the changes he had promised, working side by side with a trusted team he had carefully selected. Through regular sessions with each department, he ensured that employees' concerns were heard and that an environment was created where everyone felt safe to share their ideas without fear of retaliation. The new anonymous communication policies quickly paid off, and employees began to freely voice their concerns, revealing problems that were previously hidden beneath the surface. One of the first to benefit from these changes was Jorge, who had been on the verge of losing his home due to financial problems. Upon learning of his situation, Alex had implemented an assistance program for employees in difficult situations. Thanks to this new support, Jorge was able to stabilize his economic situation and concentrate on his work without the constant pressure of his personal problems. Over time, Jorge became one of the biggest advocates for change at Innovatech, and his gratitude towards Alex was evident in every interaction. Along with these supportive policies, Alex focused on revamping the evaluation and advocacy process. Instead of only assessing numerical results, the new system included an assessment of the positive impact on the team and commitment to the company culture. This allowed people like Anna, whose ideas had been ignored in the past, to finally have the opportunity to advance their careers. Alex offered Anna a place on an innovation committee, where her creativity and vision could be valued in an environment of respect and collaboration. On the other hand, Alex did not hesitate to confront those who had contributed to the toxic culture. It was a difficult decision, but to demonstrate his commitment to Innovatech's transformation, he decided to replace certain leaders in the company. One of them was Martha Rivera, whose contemptuous attitude and lack of empathy towards her colleagues no longer had a place in Innovatech's new vision. Although the decision was not an easy one, Alex knew that this was an important signal for everyone. Innovatech was committed to prioritizing respect and inclusion, and any behavior that went against these values would not be tolerated. The changes continued to spread. Leadership trainings were established for all levels, and each new leader at Innovatech had to go through a development program focused on values such as empathy, inclusion, and respect. Before long, employees began to notice the positive impact of these transformations. The meetings ceased to be dominated by a few, and everyone's ideas began to be taken into account. Even the physical environment of the company changed. Work areas were redesigned to encourage collaboration and break down the hierarchical barriers that previously separated teams. One afternoon, Alex toured the office and met Samuel in the break room, chatting animatedly with some colleagues from other departments. Seeing Alex, Samuel walked over and said, "I never thought I'd see Innovatech become something like this. It seems like a different place, and I couldn't be prouder to work here." Alex nodded, feeling deep pride in what they had all accomplished together. "We have achieved it thanks to people like you, Samuel. This has not only been my work, but the effort and dedication of each one of you." In the months that followed, Innovatech underwent a sea change. Employee productivity and morale improved dramatically, and the sense of community and belonging grew to levels Alex had never imagined possible. What was once a company driven solely by short-term goals and pressure has grown into a vibrant community, a space where every employee felt valued and a fundamental part of shared success. Alex knew that the true test of change was time, but he vowed to never disconnect from the reality of his company again. From then on, he took time each week to walk around the offices, talk to employees, and listen to their concerns, reminding himself that Innovatech should continue to be a place where everyone, from the newcomer to the highest-ranking leader, could feel visible, heard, and respected. As the months passed, Innovatech continued its transformation process. The changes implemented by Alex began to yield visible results. Employees showed a renewed sense of pride and belonging, and departments, which had once seemed divided into invisible castes, now collaborated more openly and effectively. Alex remained committed to being present and accessible to all. Each week he hosted Coffee with the CEO sessions, where any employee could sit down with him in an informal setting to share ideas, concerns, or simply chat about the direction of the company. These sessions became a space for authentic communication, and Alex was able to see firsthand the positive effect of having accessible leadership. Employees like Anna and Samuel, who had gone unnoticed under previous leadership, now felt comfortable sharing their ideas, and every conversation helped Alex stay in touch with the day-to-day reality of the company. One of the most significant projects that emerged from these meetings was the creation of an innovation committee, a group made up of employees from different levels and departments, whose purpose was to propose and evaluate new ideas to improve Innovatech's products and internal processes. Anna was selected as the leader of this committee, a decision that generated support among her peers. His calm but determined leadership allowed many voices that had previously felt silenced to have a platform where their ideas were taken seriously. The committee soon began to come up with fresh ideas that helped Innovatech improve its offering and strengthen its reputation in the market as an innovative and socially responsible company. On the other hand, Alex did not stop working in the employee benefits and financial support program. After hearing the story of Jorge and other employees who were facing difficulties, he implemented a support system for those who were going through difficult personal situations. This program not only offered financial support, but also counseling and resources to help employees balance their professional and personal lives. For many, this change represented a significant improvement in their quality of life and demonstrated Innovatech's commitment to the well-being of its team. In addition, Alex introduced a series of mandatory trainings for all managers and team leaders, focused on values such as empathy, inclusion, and effective communication. These trainings included hands-on workshops and reflection sessions in which leaders were asked to analyze their own behaviors and recognize areas for improvement. The impact was evident. Employees began to notice a different attitude in their leaders, who instead of imposing goals in an authoritarian way, were now more willing to listen and collaborate in solving problems. Over time, Innovatech began to receive external recognition for its focus on human development and inclusion. The company was highlighted in several publications for its work culture model and became an example for other organizations in the industry. But for Alex, the greatest achievement was not the public recognition. but the positive atmosphere that was now experienced in every corner of the company. Employees were inspired to do their best, knowing that their effort was valued and that their personal well-being mattered as well. On one occasion, while Alex was walking through the halls, he ran into Laura, who was organizing a meeting with her team. When she saw him, she stopped to thank him. "I never thought all of this was possible, Alex. Today's Innovatech is the place I've always wanted to work." Alex smiled, feeling satisfied and proud. "It wasn't just my job, Laura. Everyone here contributed to make this happen. Innovatech is what it is thanks to each one of you." With the satisfaction of seeing how his effort had paid off, Alex continued to lead the company with the same commitment. He knew that the path to an inclusive and fair culture was constant, and that while they had achieved a major change, it was their responsibility to ensure that Innovatech never deviated from their core values again. This long-term commitment translated into sustained growth for Innovatech. Customers began to notice the difference in the way the company's employees approached their work. The culture of respect and collaboration was reflected in the quality of the products and services they offered, and soon, Innovatech positioned itself as one of the most innovative and respected technology companies in the sector. But for Alex, the most rewarding thing wasn't the business success, but the sense of community that had been built in the company, where each employee knew that their work had a purpose and that they were valued. Each day, Alex recalled the lesson he had learned as Charlie. He knew that he should never disconnect from the reality of his team, or forget that true leadership was not about imposing decisions from the top, but about creating an environment where everyone could contribute and thrive. For him, this was the true purpose of Innovatech and the legacy he wanted to leave in the company and in each person who was part of it. Over the years, the changes at Innovatech not only transformed the company, but also each of its employees. Alex maintained his commitment to leading with closeness and empathy, and each month he hosted an open forum where anyone in the company could share their concerns and suggestions directly with him. These meetings became an essential part of Innovatech's culture, and employees felt not only listened to, but also involved in the company's important decisions. A key aspect of this transformation was the Innovation Committee led by Annalee. Under his leadership, the committee became an engine of creativity and continuous improvement. Anna used her position to ensure that the ideas of employees at all levels were taken into account, and this created an environment where each person felt free to share ideas. Thanks to this inclusive approach, Innovatech developed pioneering products in digital accessibility, one of which won industry awards and strengthened the company's position in the market. Samuel Vega, who had always demonstrated quiet leadership, also thrived at the new Innovatech. Eventually, Alex offered him a formal position as a mentor for new generation employees. Samuel humbly agreed, and his positive influence spread throughout the company, inspiring others to take on supporting and teaching roles. Thanks to their dedication, Innovatech began to attract new talent with values aligned with the culture of respect and collaboration that now characterized the company. Laura Moreno, the dedicated accountant who had sacrificed so much, became one of the finance leaders, and under her stewardship, the department flourished. Laura took the inclusive approach that Alex had fostered, ensuring that her team maintained a work-life balance. Her team considered her not just a boss, but a leader who truly valued the well-being of each member. Days of exhaustive work without recognition were a thing of the past, and Laura made sure everyone had the support and opportunities she herself had wanted years ago. To reinforce the cultural change, Alex and his team also implemented a continuous feedback system. All employees, including managers, were required to participate in regular evaluations that evaluated not only their performance, but also their alignment with Innovatech's values. This system allowed the company to detect problems early and provide guidance or support to those who needed it. This approach helped to remove the barriers between hierarchical levels and to make everyone feel part of the same team with shared goals. As Innovatech thrived, requests also began to come in from other companies and organizations that wanted to learn from the company's success. Alex began receiving invitations to give lectures and workshops on inclusive leadership and building strong company cultures. At first, he was hesitant to accept, as his priority was Innovatech, But then he understood that sharing his experience could help other companies implement similar changes. Thus, Innovatech became a benchmark for positive change, and the company began to offer training programs to other organizations, extending its influence beyond its own industry. Alex, however, never forgot the lesson he had learned as Charlie. Each anniversary of his undercover mission, he took a week to work alongside different teams, from housekeeping to executive departments. Although employees knew who he was, this practice became a tradition that reminded everyone of the importance of understanding and valuing each role in the company. In one of these weeks, while working alongside the maintenance team, Alex had a conversation with Jorge Diaz, who was now a logistics supervisor. Jorge told her that thanks to the support of Innovatech, he had been able to improve his financial situation and spend more time with his family. Before, I feared that I would never have time to enjoy life. Now I work with pleasure knowing that the company supports me as much as I support it, Jorge told him, with a smile of pride and gratitude. At the end of that day, Alex realized that Innovatech was not just a company, but a community of people who genuinely cared about each other. The company had become a place where everyone, from the newest employee to the managers, worked together toward a common goal. The business accomplishments were impressive, but for Alex, the real success was the positive, collaborative environment they had created together. The road to this transformation hadn't been easy, but Alex knew it was worth it. Innovatech had become the kind of place he had always dreamed of, one where respect, merit, and inclusion were the foundations of every achievement. With a clear vision and a strong community, Alex and his team looked to the future with optimism, ready to face any challenge with the certainty that together they could achieve everything. Over time, Innovatech not only became a model of financial and professional success, but also a benchmark of community and commitment to the well-being of each of its members. The company continued to evolve, innovating not only in technology, but also in strengthening a humane and caring culture. Alex, who never lost his focus on Innovatech's initial purpose, established a new personal and professional growth program focused on the integral development of employees. The program allowed each team member to identify their own goals, both professional and personal, and work alongside mentors to achieve them. Anna Lee, who initially led the Innovation Committee, found in this program the opportunity to further explore her leadership skills. Over time, she became a pivotal leader within the company, overseeing research and development projects that positioned Innovatech at the forefront of accessible technology. Under his leadership, the company developed a number of products that improved the lives of people with disabilities, and this made a huge impact on both the industry and the community. For his part, Samuel Vega, known for his generosity and ability to support others, became a permanent mentor within the program. Samuel taught employees to lead with empathy and patience, passing on his values and work ethic to those just starting their careers. Many of the young employees who spent time with Samuel in the program expressed that it had been a transformative experience, and some of them joined the Innovation Committee and other leadership teams, inspired by Samuel's example. Laura Moreno, who had assumed a leadership position in finance, implemented a financial wellness system within the program. He taught employees how to better manage their personal finances, something he had learned from his own experience during his difficult years. Thanks to Laura, Innovatech introduced an assistance fund for employees who were going through difficult personal situations, providing them with support in critical moments without compromising their job or personal stability. Each year, Innovatech celebrated its achievements with a Week of Innovation and Gratitude. During this week, employees shared their projects, publicly recognized the efforts of their colleagues, and participated in personal growth workshops. Volunteer activities were organized in which employees collaborated in community projects, reinforcing the values of generosity and social responsibility that Alex had promoted from the beginning. One year, Alex decided to open the doors of Innovatech to employees' families, creating the Families at Innovatech event, where loved ones could see the work environment up close. The initiative was a success, and many employees were proud to show their families where they worked. Jorge, who had once feared losing his home and time with his children, brought his family to the event. Watching his children tour the facility and learn about their work reminded Jorge of how far he had come since the difficult days and how much he had achieved with the support of Innovatec. As Innovatec thrived, so did its community. Inclusion programs, supportive benefits, and a culture of respect and collaboration became a distinguishing feature that attracted talented professionals from all over the world. Employees spoke of Innovatec not only as their workplace, but as a true community, a space where they could grow as professionals and as people. One day, Alex was invited to an international leadership conference where he was asked to speak about the transformation of Innovatec. Sharing his experience, Alex explained how his decision to go undercover as Charlie had allowed him to understand the real needs of his company, and how since then he had been committed to maintaining that perspective in every decision he made. At the end of his presentation, someone in the audience asked him what the secret of Innovatec's success was. Alex answered honestly, "There is no secret. It's simply recognizing that every person in a company matters, that every job has value. If we create an environment where everyone can contribute, where everyone feels heard and supported, then success comes by itself." As the audience applauded, Alex recalled his journey and the profound impact his employees, from Samuel to Laura and Anna, had had on his life and the evolution of Innovatec. He knew that the success of the company was not only his, but that of every person who had believed in the vision of an inclusive company committed to its employees. Back at Innovatec, Alex continued to lead with humility and empathy. The company continued to expand and create new programs for the development of its employees, always adapting to the needs of those who were part of its community. Each achievement they achieved reinforced the purpose Alex had sought from the beginning, to build a company that not only innovated in technology, but was also an example of integrity and humanity in the corporate world. With each passing year, Innovatec not only grew in size, but also in impact. The company maintained its focus on cutting-edge technology, but its humanistic culture and commitment to employee well-being became its greatest competitive advantage. Customers, partners, and even competitors were watching closely how Innovatec had created a culture where innovation and respect went hand in hand, and this attracted an influx of new and ambitious talent. Anna Lee continued to lead the Innovation Committee, which over time had become a kind of laboratory for revolutionary ideas. Anna and her team designed an accessibility app that used artificial intelligence to help visually impaired people navigate digital and physical environments. The app received a wave of awards, and some hospitals and educational centers began to adopt it, generating a real change in the lives of thousands of people. Alex, deeply moved, publicly acknowledged the work of Anna and her team, and stressed that this type of project was the true purpose of Innovatec, to use technology to make the world a better place. Meanwhile, Samuel Vega continued to play his role as a mentor, and his influence in the company extended even to those who never worked directly with him. His leadership style, characterized by patience, empathy, and a focus on personal development, inspired many to view professional success in a different way. Samuel not only taught technical skills, but also life principles, sharing anecdotes and lessons that helped employees feel valued and capable. The company began to notice how the values Samuel promoted permeated the new leaders of Innovatec, and his role became indispensable in the continuity of the culture of respect and support that Alex had dreamed of. Laura Moreno also continued to expand her responsibilities. With the Employee Assistance Fund in place, Innovatec became a place where employees felt safe in all facets of their lives. Laura's story of how Innovatec had supported her when she needed it most became an inspiration in the company, and Laura frequently shared her experience in financial and emotional wellness workshops. Their story reminded everyone that Innovatec was not only a place to work, but a community of mutual support. This focus on financial well-being, driven by Laura, made Innovatec stand out in the labor market, attracting talent that was looking for a company that genuinely cared about its employees. Innovatec's achievements reached the ears of the media, and the company began to be known as a place where individual and collective success meet. Alex appeared in interviews where he shared the journey of Innovatec and the importance of staying close to each level of the company. In a particularly emotional interview, Alex confessed that his decision to go undercover as Charlie had been the moment that forever changed his view of leadership. "It was humbling that I will never forget," he said. Understanding the daily realities of each of our employees was the key to transforming Innovatech into what it is today. With the success, Innovatech also began to extend its influence to charitable and social causes. The company launched a Technology for Good program, in which it donated a percentage of its annual profits to technology projects in disadvantaged communities. Innovatech collaborated with schools and non-profit organizations, providing educational workshops and access to technology for young people who aspired to work in the sector. Alex personally oversaw these initiatives, ensuring that Innovatech's values were reflected in every project they undertook. One afternoon, during one of his weekly tours of the company, Alex ran into Jorge Diaz, who was now a logistics and project coordination team leader. Jorge, with his usual humility, thanked him once again for the support that Innovatech had given him in difficult times. "Alex, I want you to know that what you've done here isn't just a career opportunity for many of us. You have changed our lives." Alex, visibly moved, replied, "Jorge, the change has been possible thanks to people like you. Innovatech is what it is today, because everyone, from every leader to every employee, has put their heart into this project. This place belongs to everyone, and I'm honored to see how far we've come together." As the sun set over the Innovatech campus, Alex watched his team work energetically, collaborating on projects, and showing the same commitment he had seen in them during their undercover mission. Alex knew that Innovatech's true success was not only in its technological achievements, but in the culture of humanity and collaboration that they had all built together. Innovatech continued to grow, but it never lost sight of the values that had been its backbone. With each step, the company reaffirmed its purpose to change the world, one technology and one life at a time. For Alex, being part of that transformation, learning from his employees and building together with them a company where everyone felt valued and supported, was the greatest achievement of his life. Innovatech's legacy, built on respect, innovation, and community, became a model for other companies, and Alex, with deep humility and gratitude, pledged to continue leading in the same spirit he had learned as Charlie. Over the years, Innovatech came to be known not only for its technology, but also for its pioneering approach to corporate culture. Companies around the world began to study his work model, and Alex was invited to speak at international forums about how he had transformed his company from within. However, for him, the greatest satisfaction remained the positive impact on each person's life at Innovatech. He hadn't forgotten how respect, inclusion, and support for his employees had become the pillars of his success. On one of his weekly tours, Alex visited the development department and met Anna, who was busy coordinating a project with her team. When Anna saw him, she approached smiling. "Alex, you can't imagine how grateful I am to have had the opportunity to lead the Innovation Committee. This accessibility project we are working on will change lives." Alex smiled, knowing that Anna had grown professionally and personally over the years. "The credit is all yours, Anna. Your ideas have always been valuable, and your leadership has taken Innovatech to another level." The accessibility project led by Anna turned out to be a resounding success. The app his team developed not only made it easier for people with visual impairments to access technology, but also set a standard for other companies. Innovatech received numerous awards for its inclusive approach to product design, and soon the project became a benchmark for the industry. On another occasion, Alex met with Samuel in a mentoring session. Samuel, now a well-liked and respected leader, had left a deep imprint on every person who passed through his program. During the session, one of the young employees thanked him sincerely. "Samuel, working with you has changed my life. You've been more than a mentor. You have been an example of what it means to lead with your heart." Samuel, moved, looked at Alex and said, "Thank you for creating an environment where I can do this, Alex. Innovatech is a special place because we really care about each other here." Over time, Innovatech employees were promoted to higher roles, carrying with them the same vision of empathy and collaboration that Samuel, Anna, and Laura had instilled in them. The company grew in different sectors, but the commitment to its culture of support and respect remained steadfast. Every time Innovatech opened a new headquarters or launched a new product, employees worked together with the same passion that characterized the company since its early days of transformation. The years progressed, and although Alex continued as leader of Innovatech, He also spent part of his time advising other companies that wanted to replicate his model. As his influence in the industry grew, Alex never forgot the humbling lesson he had learned when he was Charlie. For him, that memory was a constant reminder that good leadership is born from close contact with the reality of each employee. Finally, one day, after many years leading Innovatech and seeing how the company prospered in the hands of leaders who shared his values, Alex decided it was time to step aside. He called a general meeting, where he announced that, although he would continue to support Innovatech as an advisor, he had decided to hand over leadership to the next generation. "I want everyone to know that my greatest achievement is not the growth of Innovatech, but the community we have created here. Today, I leave this company in the hands of an incredible team who I know will carry out this mission with the same values we have cultivated together," said Alex, his voice full of emotion. Anna, Samuel and Laura, along with many other employees who had accompanied him from the beginning, came to thank him and say goodbye to him with affection. At that moment, Alex realized that he had achieved something that went beyond a successful company. He had created a community of people who believed in a common purpose. Innovatech continued to thrive under the leadership of its new leaders, who maintained the values and culture that Alex had promoted. Not only did the company grow in the tech sector, but it also became a beacon of inspiration for those looking for an inclusive and respectful work environment. Alex, now retired, watched with pride as Innovatech continued to move forward, knowing that the legacy he had built would be kept alive in every corner of the company. And so, Innovatech continued its path as a benchmark in innovation and humanity, a company where every employee was valued, every voice heard, and every achievement celebrated as the fruit of the effort of a united community. For Alex, that was the true meaning of success. Years later, Innovatech was still a business model, recognized both for its technological innovation and for its human and supportive culture. Employees, old and new, proudly told the story of how the company had been reborn under Alex's leadership, and how the values of respect, inclusion, and collaboration remained steadfast, guiding every decision. Alex, now enjoying a quiet retirement, continued to mentor young leaders and startups, sharing the lessons of his mission as Charlie and the importance of staying close to people. Reflecting on his path, he realized that his success was not measured only in Innovatech's financial achievements, but in the lives of each person who had been touched by the vision he had shared. At an Innovatech anniversary ceremony, Alex was invited as a special speaker. Looking at the audience full of employees, leaders, and family members, Alex smiled and expressed his gratitude. "Innovatech is more than a company, it's a family, and the most valuable thing I can leave them is not a technology or a product, but a purpose, to always work with integrity, empathy, and respect." At the end of his speech, the employees gave him a standing ovation, acknowledging that thanks to his leadership and vision, Innovatech was much more than a workplace. It was a legacy of humanity and transformative leadership. With tears of pride, Alex thanked and said goodbye to the company, knowing that he had left the best of legacies, a community that would carry forward with the same principles he had championed. Innovatech continued to thrive, and the spirit of Charlie remained ever present in every corner of the company, reminding everyone that true success is built on collaboration, respect, and genuine commitment to the well-being of others.